Mark in the count. The swing arm now coming back as our countdown continues.
Hello there, everybody, and welcome to the Brick Something N.E.W.S, which is a weird acronym for Needless Ephemera We Saw. I'm Brick Something, and today we have a special guest see, I'm getting used to it. Allison Troy to my left. Yes, Allison Troy, the retro toy princess. What's going on, Allison?
Hello. Not much, just on the internet with you talking about toys and shit.
I feel like I was going to say on the internet with you is kind of a thing that we've been doing a lot.
Yeah,
but
right?
Yes, today we're talking on a stream. So it's a little bit different. We're live a little bit. So yes, if you have been at all familiar with what's going on the Brick Something channel, I was pushed lovingly by Thanos to bring back the news because I've been wanting to do it. I've just been kind of both busy and maybe not super organized. So I started last week with this 4:45 time slot. I'm thinking I was initially going to try and do it 4:30. Confession, I quickly told Allison, hey, I need a little more time to 4:45. But I think 4:30 will be the time starting next week. It's a perfect little time slot. Between you can go check out Highly Articulated at a roughly 2:05. You can check out Skelevator shortly after that. You can come hang out here, and then after that you've got a nice little menu of Geek Dad Live, Hella Dope, over whatever they've got going on at Just Shelve It. So there's all sorts of stuff. Great people, great info, toy geeky stuff. And before we start, Allison Troy, if you're not familiar, does have a channel herself that we'll get into maybe a little bit later, but I want to talk about it up front because you're doing some really cool stuff. Could you we'll look at it later, but could you just give us a sense of what you're doing, what you're working on?
Well, obviously sort of my thing is retro toy princess is sort of a little bit more of the girly side of the action figures we had growing up, and a big part of that for a lot of us was coloring books. That's where a lot of our lore for these stories came from. A lot of them had separate stories that didn't happen on the cartoon or in a storybook or whatever. So I have been for a few years collecting those and working on coloring them. So right now I'm just doing shorts, coloring pages. I'm working on bigger projects with the eventual goal as far as the coloring page side of things to have like sort of complete storybooks online.
Nice.
So to go to my channel and it would be like gemming the holograms, which is what I was working on before we started this. And it would be the entire coloring book with the whole story. And you can kind of just watch it from beginning. It would still have my hands in it coloring it. But eventually edit these shorts together into collections, and I want to use them like when I start doing character profiles. To sort of have that instead of using the same art that we love, but we've all seen 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And obviously, my custom figures will start cropping up. So it's a weird little arty side that kind of is hopefully delving into more of the art of these toy lines and franchises that we love.
Yeah. And by weird, she means awesome.
It's really awesome. Weird in the fun way, right?
Totally different, like just definitely bringing in the creativity, but just giving us something different to watch. I mean, like here we are doing the news and not, just being self-effacing, but like, people do the news. So you're doing something really cool. Your shorts are amazing. I was telling you, like, I love sort of seeing this art kind of come together. It's always sort of magical at the end where you're like, oh, there it is. So I love that. I love the idea of like retelling some of the stories, but then going back to, again, some of those things that, like, yes, in the toy aisles, in addition to the actual toys, there was everything for the properties that we loved, including these awesome coloring books. And so it's a wonderful like way to bring us back. So I love it. I love it, love it, love it. And you're going to be doing some coloring with people too, yeah?
Yeah,
Do I still have my name on that short list?
You are. I've got my friend Muriel, who she and I are going to be launching. This is not quite a plug, but just to get ready. She and I are going to be doing a podcast on YouTube so that we can just film it and, you know, make it, because she's overseas. She fled the U.S. in 2017 for political reasons. I'm sure everyone can do the math. But she and I were, when Wonder Woman 1984 came out, and she and I were chatting, and she was like, I've never read any of the Wonder Woman comics. And I was like, wait, what? But then it clicked. It's like, she is a Black woman. Maybe didn't. I'm like, you know, Wonder Woman has a Black sister, Nubia. And I sent her some pages, and then I'm like, well, these are a little racist, maybe by today's standards. But in 1974, this was progress. And but she was kind of intrigued. And then I've been wanting to reread all of the Wonder Woman stuff from like her first appearance in 1940. So of course, what do you do in our modern age when you want to spend time with your friends and do fun, geeky stuff? You turn it into content.
Totally.
So we're going to be doing postscripts from Paradise, where we go back to the beginning, and we'll have guests eventually for that. So anyway, long story short, she will possibly be my first coloring video guest.
Nice.
Just because it's my bestie. But you're second or third, so it depends on how we can line it all up.
I can be
because
fifth,
you're a big
sixth,
part of
seventh.
what I'm. Well, obviously, main reason I'm on here right now today is you. But a bigger reason why I decided to pull the trigger and make content was because Brick, for those of you watching, is very encouraging. He very much wants, if you've got an idea and you want to be out making content, Brick is going to support you in that. So I thank you for that.
Yep. Absolutely. Because, you know, honestly, like that was Oz, that was Ken, like, you know, Out of Control Ken. You know, there's a bunch of different folks who sort of have pushed me as well. Adam, you know, did his thing, highly articulated, pushing me, Mega J too. So like that's what it's about. That's what it's about. And at the end of the day, we all win because we get to like hang out and get this cool content, look at toys. And so that's actually what the news is really about. It's like, let's look at toys, especially because, you know, I like to bring different people on because different people have different lenses. They're looking at different things. So it's like, I know I have my lens and people have told me, oh my God, you look at some things that are like different from what I normally think about. And you know, sometimes you introduce me to things. And I love that. I want to bring people on and, you know, educate me, educate others. And we'll do that today. Hopefully that's the goal anyways. But on that note, why don't we go and see who's hanging out with us right now? First off, if we may, could we do a quick happy birthday to Nolan? Feliz cumpleaños. Yes, maligayang bati. Happy birthday, Nolan. I hope it's been a wonderful one. I love sort of watching him across some of the different lives I've seen, and people have been wishing him happy birthday along the way. So that's awesome.
Well, you also know you've arrived in ToyTube if Nolan is in your comments, because Nolan is normally in the best chats. So.
Yep. If you don't get that, you know, that beer clinking emoji, then yeah.
Why
I agree. Yes. Agreed, Thanos. It should be, but will it? Yes. Pains. Hey, look at that. Playing the role of Allison Troy in the chat is Pains Toy Samples. Hey, Pains, I hope you're doing well. I know you're feeling under the weather. I hope you and the family are doing well. Hey, Danny, good to see you. Not just that part, but all of him is in the chat. Nice. Adam is here. He's watching while he cooks, and I was napping while he was on earlier. But that's okay. I jumped on and he insulted my toys. So mean sometimes, Adam. Who else is in the chat? Yes, we're getting some happy birthday greetings, and absolutely, man, thank you for pushing me. I appreciate that. Ostradamus Toys. Speaking of who
Toy
actually
enablers.
The very first person to actually have me on a stream. Cobb is here. Good to see you. Thank
Hello,
you. Thank
Paul.
you. Saying hello to us and to the chat. And did I get Allison some AWOC sheets? No, I actually am not totally sure what he's referring to, but I love the idea of like AWOC bed sheets. And if they did exist, I would totally get you some. You can hang some in your background there.
I think he means coloring pages, because I had asked at one point.
Oh, those coloring pages, sheets. Oh, is that a Canadianism? Did you get me my sheets? Yeah.
That's one of the ways that people refer to coloring pages.
Yeah, you know what? That's that's right. Okay, now I know what you're referring to. I just don't know if we have the permission to, but I will find that out. Yes, I forgot that. You wanted black and white non-color sheets to draw. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Love that, love that, love that. Look at the business being done here. Wait a second. It says but then there's Urkel. Man, switching it up for August 27th. What's up, Quip? Duchess is here. Good to see you. Hello, hello, hello. Hope all is well out in Vegas for you and yours. And Adam actually does the opposite and encourages people not to start channels, probably when he's having a hard time, I guess. I don't know. What's going on? Good to see you. Thank you for watching us. I know you're what's up, Black Knight? I know you are prepping for your own show. That's, again, one of the many awesome options you have after the Brick Something News. We intentionally try to end at 5:45 at the very latest. Sometimes we go a little later, but just so you can jump onto the 6 o'clock viewing. And yes, you are absolutely welcome. You are loved and appreciated. And there's a lot of great messages in here. I just want to highlight the folks and make sure we get to see everyone. What's going on, Star? All right. Let's proceed to the news, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right. So actually, before we totally jump in, I just remembered. So I do put together a ongoing list of URLs and links and information to all this stuff that we cover. Sometimes I'm able to do that ahead of time. Sometimes I don't totally know what's covered enough in time. But in general, I also, kind of wait till the stream is over to get that all together. But usually I'd hope by Monday morning at the very latest, that would be updated. So that is if you use the QR code that's on the bottom right, that'll take you to it. And actually there is a URL, which would be here. And that's bit.ly/ Brick Something News, capital B, capital S, and capital News, because this is really ultimately BS News. So on that note, let's BS. So what are we starting with first? Over, not too long ago, PowerCon showed up, and one of the things that a lot of people were talking about, that I know Allison particularly was excited about, was the Gravestone Guardians. And here you're looking at Geek Dad Live's coverage on their website. So Gravestone Guardians, why don't you tell us first what your reaction was when you sort of saw this stuff, and then tell us a little bit more for those of us who might not be super familiar with what's going on with the Gravestone Guardians.
Well, when I first saw them on Instagram, I was, where can I buy this? Because it's sort of what, obviously a big fan of Origins. That's sort of my main jam right now. But what's really been missing for me and for a lot of other people in Origins is sort of the Shira and Princess of Power Love.
Yep.
And these really, for me, have sort of the sweet spot. It sort of reminds me, what you and Adam have been. I've jokingly been referring to this as AWOC for Allison.
Yeah, AWOC for Allison. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Right. Well, it's just, you and Adam are very much about AWOC, and sort of thus far, I'm feeling sort of that passion for this line. I mean, it's not an actual toy line yet, but it's exciting. I like it because It's nostalgic, but it's not an old toy brand. It's
Yep.
something new and different, but it taps into sort of what I loved about Shira, what was cool about like the Golden Girl from Galoob, sort of just the action dolls of the 80s that were
Yep.
sort of really where I had sort of right at the end of my, like it really started for me with like Star Wars. That's where it went big. And on the other side, there was Strawberry Shortcake. And then of course G.I. Joe, and then Shira hit, and it just took everything I loved about toys, and it was like in one line. And so this really hits that sweet spot for me of like action dolls, but they also sort of Gravestone Guardians are kind of like monsters a little bit. When I got out of toys, I almost immediately ended up, like Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. I really went to sort of the slasher genre of horror films, really big. I really love Scary Story, Stephen King. Like that was V.C. Andrews. Like I graduated sort of in the horror from toys. So it's like this just, for me, kind of hits that everything about like from 11 to like 13, that sort of time where things were sort of overlapping.
Yep.
It just hits that sweet. But again, it's new. It's not something I know and I've researched and read books on. And
yes, I know it's a
it's
newish
not 40
thing.
years of canon baggage.
But there is experience being put into this based on the people who are involved. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it is Garrett Sander. I may or may not have bought the coloring book. And floppy and analog and PDF. And he's one of the sort of people who helped develop and create Monster High. So obviously there's some of that feeling here, but also he was sort of cutting his teeth in toys around around in the 80s. So like this is just sort of all of his aesthetic, and it's not a real toy line yet. There's the one prototype. He sold some of the prototypes
at the shows. Those were the pictures real quick that I was showing here. So you see some of the prototypes. Fun fact, those right next to Animal Wars of the Kingdom.
Well, and some people were like, "Oh my God, it's like $300-400." It's like, yeah, because they made 5 of these.
Oh yeah, no, these are I mean, people need to maybe read a little closer if they miss it, or maybe they just see the 300. No, I get that, but these are I get why maybe people thought that, but totally prototypes. These are like these are the things that if your house catches on fire, this is maybe the one
This is
toy that you're gonna bring home.
This is like his proof of concept of what the figures would look like. And obviously even here, way more in the Shira line. This is sort of the buck, and it's made by when we get to sort of the custom stuff I picked out, it's made by a guy who Adam Shira on Instagram, who is one of my favorite customers, because he 100% nails the vintage Princess of Power, the vibe of it, the look of it.
Yep.
So it's like Garrett and Adam, and it's like it's like Allison Nerd Toy Nirvana.
I love it. Yeah, absolutely. And sorry.
Oh no, I want everyone to be into it, so these can be actual real toys.
Yeah, I mean that's the hope, and I think they definitely got a lot of attention. And I think there's a lot of folks who have talked this thing up and are trying to, there's it would definitely just be different. Like I like different. So if you look at sort of this website that again will be in those links, we've got that little intro that could be the beginning of a cartoon, right? As it sort of opens up and ending with the awesome tagline, even Gravestone Guardians monster up. And so right now it's just sort of building interest in the IP, in the brand. And so you got pins, enamel pins and stuff with some of the characters. You can get a sense of like what cool designs could be coming if they ever were to produce these in plastic. So just because of the time, we'll leave that for folks to take a look at later. And again, you can use that QR code that is on the screen. But let's go ahead and move on to some of the other things that you pointed out and wanted to show us. What are we looking at here?
And we are looking at, this is from Instagram, because that's pretty much, in my opinion, the easiest way to sort of find these indie toy creators, small companies. Instagram is, for me, where it is.
Absolutely.
Trash compactor customs. I actually have items from them, and they're overseas. They're in England, so for some of you, the Etsy shipping is probably not awful, but you pay a little bit more if you're in the States. But for me, the reason these appeal is because they are able to do characters that I'm pretty sure Hasbro will not do.
Yeah,
And
I'm pretty sure these ones that we're seeing are ones that we kind of have known for a while that will never be made. The Tonica sisters from.
We've been told repeatedly they're not going to make them, and they're there's sort of speculation rumor as to why. None of it like is substantiated, and it's like some of it could just be that George Lucas got annoyed with one of the actresses for being a little bit uppity about making money off her likeness, but what have you. But they are in the vintage style, which we do know Hasbro has sort of looking back at, but there's just figures that you can get, and they do require you to paint them a little. You have to be a little crafty to do them. But there are a lot of fan creators who do take these and will paint them for you. So, and it's been on my mind because there was sort of the Hasbro, with Toy Anxiety and Toying Around, and I always forget the name of her channel, but basically the Boba Fett fangirl channel. I forget what the name is. They sort of did a Zoom call with Hasbro, and they were talking about like the pipeline and what they make and what they don't make, what they look at as far as determining what figures to make. And it was just really clear to me, like, sort of why we get what we get from Hasbro as far as figures. One, the Mandalorian stuff is what sells. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that sort of sits on the shelves, but at the same time, the rest of it is really, I mean, every time something gets carbonized, which is, as somebody said, that's Hasbro's form of jokerizing.
Jokerized, totally. Or making Batman, but yes, totally.
But, you know, so if you really are like myself, you know, and I didn't talk about my Star Wars love a lot, because when you talk about Star Wars too much, the wrong fanboys show up. It's like saying Beetlejuice 3 times, except somebody in a fedora shows up to mansplain.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. So I don't talk about it a lot, but this is where I've been fulfilling my Star Wars love, and it's really evident, sort of based on what the mass populace wants from Star Wars at retail, and what actually sells. Like all these cool side characters. The fan options, the small businesses, the boutiques that make this stuff, that's where you're going to want to go. And we should, like, let's support each other, because the people at Trash Compactor, they're like us. These are toys that they want, they want to buy, they're not getting. And they're helping us all out. So, like, you know,
I mean,
like,
it's a win-win, really. Like, if you're a fan of this stuff and you've got like a vintage collection or want to supplement your 3.75s, there are just characters that don't exist. And so here's a person who is like a fan and wanted to make it, likely, as I've often made like t-shirt designs. It's because I want to wear that t-shirt. I'm usually the first one to buy it, to wear it. But then, hey, if others can, help support and keep it going and, share the love, that's what these are about. Yeah. I mean, like, we don't have Yularen in the old vintage line. We don't have some of these other characters that we've seen. Admiral Ozzel. I don't even know this character. I'm assuming from the Cantina, Lisa Bsurlum.
Yeah, I have. Hasbro did her like 10, 13 years ago.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And sort of it's the vintage collection, but that's not what they were calling it. It had all the articulation. I have her. She goes for a lot of money now, because they're not doing really Cantina aliens, unless it's sort of like the main 4 from the vintage line. You know, you can get.
And if they are, I was just gonna say that like this is an aesthetic, right? This is like if you
Yeah,
really are trying to get that classic type,
yeah.
this person is really dialed into that sort of Kenner look.
And
And sorry,
what
I didn't
yeah,
mean to cut
no,
you off. I'm just
no, you're fine.
looking at
What
time.
and one of the nice things about Trash Compactor is that he's not the only one that does the sculpts. There are several different fans who do the 3D imaging and
Okay. Okay.
make the different sculpts. And if you go there, you'll see he has 2 or 3 different. There are a couple different Ewok village layers, or a couple different Hut Slayer layers, because if you have a good sculpt and people are interested in it, he will reach out to a creator and carry theirs. So you'll see version 1, version 2. It's not even you're not even limited to the one version. He will carry multiple versions of a character so that you can look between 2 or like I have one of the Bespin layers, the Bespin Escape. I have one of them. There are 2 or 3 different versions at the time I bought it, so I got to pick the one that fit my collection and my vibe
Sure.
best.
And I apologize. I know you're talking Bespin Leia, and I probably should be showing that visually, but the Gorax grabbed my attention because
these are awesome.
as a Gorax
Yeah.
does, and I was looking at that this is again not something we'll get, but definitely not something we'll get in this scale, right? I mean, it's not exactly the scale, but it's pretty cool.
Epic. They're just again like these are. Whenever I'm, like you pop on to Discord, if you and I are in any way linked on your Discord, and you see that I'm awake at like 5 a.m. My time, because I'm probably up looking at, small creators on Etsy who are making stuff. So
yeah. Oh, it's so great. I mean, I wish we could just pour through this stuff, but again, I'll put these links in. But wow, I mean,
everyone
just some of
dive.
the
This is where our energies, when we get mad because Hasbro's not going to make what we want, instead of ranting about it, leaving a sad comment, go find somebody on Etsy or eBay who is making what you want. Somebody's out there doing it.
Absolutely. Yeah, be productive. Go put your money elsewhere and go paint something and maybe chill out.
Yep.
Okay. This was awesome. Thank you again. This is why I love the idea of bringing people on. So I'm being introduced to stuff. This is what it's all about. Thank you so much. Speaking of, you were introducing me to this. So tell us about Misfit Dolls.
Misfit Dolls. This is a recent discovery of mine. Obviously, when you're a customizer, as I think most of us, most of the people in the chat right now are, we have really eclectic subscriptions on YouTube. One of the places I subscribe to is, her name is Aria, and she does doll miniatures. She did an epic Addams Family dollhouse that is like in a miniature museum right now, and she's working on a Beetlejuice house right now. If you put in Beetlejuice miniature dollhouse, it'll pull her up. I forget her name off the top of my head. It's like Bentley House Miniatures. But
Are you saying, sorry, real quick, is that in YouTube or in Google?
It's on YouTube.
Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Okay, Beetlejuice.
Yeah, Beetlejuice miniature dollhouse. So for her, for the dolls she wants for her Beetlejuice dollhouse, she went through this creator, and of course I followed the link in her YouTube and went to the store, and it's just, yep, there she is, Bentley House. And a lot of what Aria does really applies if you're, do custom figures. Of course, more toward the dollhouse, but if you're building backdrops. But she purchased some of these dolls from Misfit Dolls, and I went and I checked them out, and she has them in 4-inch, 5-inch, and 6-inch scale, and they're very posable resin. A variety of bodies, mostly male and female, obviously. Most of her stuff is geared toward dolls, so it's not muscular like your superheroes. But if you're looking for sort of 5-inch figures to go with your origins, that would be sort of like teenage, like your preteens or teenagers, it's sort of the perfect thing for it. But again, it's like, And it's $55 for like the blank body, but it comes with a head, some blank eyes, and very poseable. And it's just, I don't know. It's like the sort of thing that I am into. It's like you can make your own toy lines,
Yeah.
sort of with, supplement, like my Origins custom collection. I have been supplementing with other toy lines when I find something compatible. These look really compatible. So
this is great. Thank you once again. Oh my God. Just looking at the process. I love this kind
yeah,
of stuff.
Aria, like I definitely recommend Bentley House if you have.
Yeah.
Now that you have it pulled up,
It's
remember
here. And then I just wanted to model what you do when you find cool stuff. Just click that subscribe button, and then you can find out when new things happen. You can click that little notification bell too. So there you go.
If you're doing play sets, definitely check her out, because
Yeah.
there's nothing she hasn't done that hasn't
Oh my
inspired me in
God.
some. Right.
This is all like, and this is definitely like advanced stuff, and it's great.
Yeah, and she's on. She also fails. There are episodes
Fantastic.
where everything she does
Very
goes
cool.
sideways
Yeah.
and wrong, and then she'll do it. Her next video will be her fixing it. So you definitely
That's
get
awesome.
to learn with her, and when she's sort of having to make up a process. So again, for me. It's just as useful to see when something crashes and burns and figure out why it did.
Totally.
As far as picking up new skills. But yeah, Misfit dolls. It's just, like superposable, the resin. You can get them in beige, gray, and brown. So like there are different skin tones for you. And then of course you
Awesome.
would have to sort of, fix them if you're needing a really specific tone. But
Sure.
resin takes paint really easy. So yeah.
These seem pretty intricate too, in terms
Yeah.
of like the joints and everything.
Yeah, they're made to, like since they're dolls, they're made to sort of work with clothes over them.
Sure.
So yeah, but I mean, yeah, they would work as well for action figures.
Very cool.
Just
Misfit
based on them.
dolls. Oh, here we go again. Modeling. See something cool? Follow it.
Yeah.
Tell people about it. Absolutely. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Here. Well, no. You know what? I don't want to like that image. People might think I'm a weird creep. No, I'm just kidding. Of the. Anyways. Moving on. So that was.
I'll have to do an apology with the ukulele in a few weeks.
Okay. Here's one thing, if I may share, that just recently this SH Monster Arts, I think it's called a Tigrex, from a video game called Monster Hunter that I've sort of been tracking, and it's sort of on my list after I work through the Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom with my kiddo. So basically like 5 years from now. But anyways, this thing was put up for pre-sale, and I've been watching reviews of these. It's a Monster Arts figure. But I have heard a little bit about sort of the finicky joints and everything, but I don't know. I'm just kind of, me and creatures. But it's a cool looking thing. It's a little bit on the smaller side. It's about 11 inches long. And it's also Monster Arts. So it's it's not cheap. So I'll be honest, I'm not like saying, hey, it's not something that I may necessarily jump at. I kind of want to see the reviews, but I do want to quickly sort of show you images, and again, I'll share those links.
I love the colors of that. The turquoise and like that coppery reddish.
Right?
No, just I like when toys have the bright colors. I realize this, like I'm loving my Helena Shaw figure. But I think I would love her a little bit more if she were in turquoise.
So yeah, I'll definitely put that in the link, because I am going to move through it pretty quickly so we can get back to some of the stuff that you wanted to talk through. But there are other ones that are out for pre-sale, like this one, which is a Zenogre. And just, some of these are just, the designs are pretty cool. I mean, there's like a dragon and a beast, and then there's people like taking it to the next level. And it's a Capcom game, so they've got, their designers are sort of initially responsible for the design, and then
Yeah.
Bandai is turning them into plastic goodness with like ridiculous joints and everything for the tail to move and
Thanks.
the arms and a little platform. Just beautiful. And again, even like I know people look at the prices and they're like, no, we don't have to buy everything, but we can look at this stuff and be inspired by it. That's kind of how I, that's what the internet's taught me, is that I don't need to have everything. And then there's some that are in stock right now. I
Oh
will
my
say I've
gosh.
gorgeous, right? I
And
have
the
been looking at
colors.
reviews. Yeah. Like crystalline,
Yeah.
like transparent goodness. This is
And
one that I
Shira
saw.
needs the dragon, right? How much is that?
Yeah, it's up there. I
Oh wait, no,
mean,
no, she's got, never mind. She's got
well,
that.
you could look at, reviews too, because I have heard in particular with this one, folks like frustrated with, you move it around and things fall off. But you can hit
Oh
these poses and hang them in there and take pictures. But again, it might just be the kind of thing that inspires you, gives you some ideas, not necessarily something we need to own. And just,
oh,
looking
but
at,
the colors.
yep, look at the little like bass and the effects. It's gorgeous. Anyway, there's that. And because I know Allison loves a good Todd McFarlane figure,
Oh my
this
goodness.
came up for pre-order,
Oh my.
and it's a Hawkman. It's a little bit more than what I think we're used to seeing in a McFarlane. There's a little bit of price creep apparently, at least for this collector edition figures. But I'm, we both I know are a fan of muscular, half-naked men that look kind of like
I mean,
barbarians, and then
well, and this was the last time before Hawkman completely got ruined. So like, this is
yes,
the last true figure of Hawkman before he was a hot train wreck.
I loved my Thanagarian. Well, I love this Hawkman. I love especially more the sort of Golden Age one where he looked a little bit
Yeah.
more alien.
Yeah.
But I just like to look at things. I especially love to sort of see the wings. The wings are what kind of actually drew me. It's like, ooh, what could be done with those wings? They're
Those are really good
gorgeous.
things.
They aren't super articulated or anything, but the cool looking sculpt. I could do without the chest hair, but hey, cool.
You gotta have something to run your hand against when you're flying through the sky. It's really cold
Sure.
here now.
So that's a thing. And look, I covered a McFarlane figure. No, like there are some random things that I look at every now and then, and there you go. If I may, let's move us into some customs, and I know you've got some customs to look at.
Yeah, like I'm sharing some of my work.
Yes, and I'll get to you. I'm going to try and move so that we can have some time to both look at the stuff you have, and I wanted to spend a little bit of time before we end today looking at your stuff. But plastic Platorium, Alberto Morales. I just wanted to highlight, great account, great follow, cool stuff. But as I put in the thumbnail, there's some photos in here of some scenes that he set up that take place in Mythos, the world of Mythic Legions, that kind of depict some scenes that are alluded to in some of the lore, during these great battles, and the particular characters that would be in rooms like this meeting. And I'm always intrigued how people create environments that have yet to be really revealed by the Four Horsemen. So it's kind of cool how people are interpreting.
Is that like Sunburst behind him? Like, is that from the Mythos, or is that something he just created? Because that's,
as far as I know, yeah.
That's exactly, my brain is just like, I kind of want one of those.
Yep, that's exactly where I went too. Was sort of like, oh, he is kind of like filling out this world, and I don't know where this came from in terms of like what material was used to create that thing, but it definitely feels right from what I know of the lore. Like, it's gold, it's gaudy, you can tell by his armor, but a skull, sort of given the sort of the forces that they are fighting with during these wars. The little animal warrior that got slaughtered.
Well, I don't know anything about the lore, but
sure.
What I just know is looking at it, it looks like it looks
of
like
the world.
it fit like it all. Yeah, it's just exactly. Like it's just,
Yep.
it's really cool.
That's where my brain went to. It was like, wow, okay. And again, it's just so cool to think that we're in this time where, you know, we always talk about like, oh, with Ken, I like to bring it up a lot because I like the notion of this idea of the toy renaissance, but more the idea that like we're in this period where there's an abundance of technology to produce things, so that the fans are now creators, not just of toys, but now of these photos, right? And
Yeah,
can kind of tell stories with their figures and have people look at them, and we can all enjoy them and access them. So I love this. And then there's a couple of more sort of mythos oriented ones, like the demons meeting in the night to potentially do some spells and summon some of their, I guess, I don't know if brethren is the right term, but there are others to bring in or maybe do some spells to potentially merge their power. Again, none of this is shown. None of this is this background is depicted in the Nate Barch artwork, but it's something that Alberto kind of like has come up with, and I love that. Right, that's a fan sort of like, okay, what is this world? Like the Four Horsemen set it up. Let me sort of go with it. And so love that little snake fountain and even just the setup here with, just the background. Gorgeous. Look at that.
Oh my gosh.
And another one, I am a fan. I have that same dinosaur, and I'm a fan of mixing in my Jurassic Park cheap-ish dinos with Mythic Legions and Masters of the Universe and AWOC and what have you. And I love this. Just was screaming at me like, you need to talk about this. I love the custom sort of saddle, right?
Yeah.
So there's custom work going on here and photography, really. This could have been
I would assume some of that is like a backdrop he's built. Like it doesn't look fully. Some of it looks like it could be, like green screened in, but a lot of it does not. Like
it looks like maybe the ultimate background is, but then this is not, right? There's like the sort of like craft foliage, plastic stuff. Very cool. So that is Plastic Platorium over at Instagram. Again, I will eventually put that document together that will have the links directly to these things. So check back for those, and I'll post them in the community stuff. But let's go ahead and move over to MOTU lifelike figures. This is one that I have been following, and I've been so intrigued by this account. I'm glad you suggested it.
I've been following this creator since Facebook when it was called originally it was like New Shira doll over on Facebook, and he just started taking the Phison figures and making Shira, and he's obviously worked his way through Shira, and he's now moved over to MOTU, and he's done some Golden Girl, and it just it's one of those things where he's really taken, in my opinion, sort of the aesthetic of MOTU and Princess of Power and Golden Girl and really translated it into real world items.
Yep.
Like the armor and everything as he makes them is functional. And I do appreciate that he has sort of managed to keep some of sort of the sexiness of, the various lines without it being gratuitous. Like there's a really fine line you can tread sometimes, and I feel like he gets that line really good, where it's like, yes, these are beautiful people, but the armor is also functional. And like it's not weird. It doesn't feel weird. Like sometimes it feels weird when people do
and
things.
It's also like, I love how it kind of like when Mondo has done their figures, how they get to sort of like reinterpret the characters, and like, so I'm looking at, like, I don't remember Flutterina necessarily having like the elven ears. I might be wrong on that.
She did not.
So just I really like those kinds of things. Like, what would fans do if they had a chance to sort of like do a movie essentially? Like these are like concepts that could be done for like a live action.
Yeah, that's really what I sort of like about his work. He's not trying. He's taking the original like designs and the original vibe of the figure, and then really doing something epic. Like it's just, I don't know, a lot of what like our very own Thanos sort of does the same thing, where he, although he doesn't change the figures, but with his sort of the way he interprets it, he does a real world thing with them that like. And sometimes it gets a little sexy with Thanos' work, but it's also like playful enough and like done with a certain feeling that it's like it's not, you don't feel weird. Like sometimes you feel weird when people make toys a little sexier than maybe we're used to them being, and like I enjoy that, as a grown ass adult. Like,
as a grown-ass adult.
Yeah.
This, I mean, look at that, the use of that. I'm assuming it's a screen behind them, but that it just looks so good.
He
Great
uses
choice.
resin, he uses like every material you could possibly use to craft the stuff he uses. Like so yeah, no, he does really amazing work. Like it just
Is there one or two that you want me to quickly bring up before we move on?
I'm a huge fan of Double Trouble from Wave 1, Princess of Power, because she was the one who never made it till Filmation. So as a kid, like I was able to give her the most of my own story, like just because there was no Filmation ever. And she often was overlooked in all the merch because she didn't make the cartoon. So like she was just my favorite. And I really
great armor. I mean, look at again here. You see the vintage figure and the reinterpretation of that with a sort of more like, it's almost like a like a Greek or
it's just like gladiator meets knight meets arena warrior. Like it just, she could do all three of those things, and like in that armor, and you would buy it.
Yeah. So. No video for that one. That's what I was hoping, because their videos are so fantastic.
Well, the video, because the videos take them a really long time. So
of course. Anything other than Double Trouble before we move on?
That's the only one. That's the one I go back and relook and check out all the time.
Okay. So. Real quick shot of again, like as you mentioned, it's not just Shira, but we're doing some Golden Girl action. God, this I would love this figure.
Mondo, I'm just saying, if Mondo ever does Golden Girl or Shira, like they would do well to hire him to help them.
Yeah, absolutely. There he is.
Yep, there he is.
Dun, 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 dun. All right. So in addition, I had that set up already. Adam Shira Customs.
Yeah, which he is the one who did the prototypes. This is how it all landed in my lap. The Gravestone Guardians.
The Gravestone, yeah.
Because I own work from Adam. I have his reproduction Lookie, which is just like the vintage, except it doesn't have the wheels, the eyes don't turn. But that's a stupid action feature anyway. But he looks epic. Looks like the vintage toy, and it was like 150, which is very reasonable for
custom.
And for a custom of a figure that looks just like a vintage figure that's several $1,000s and even remotely good condition. But as you can see, he also does some Evelynns in a vintage style. His movie Evelyn is pretty good. I'm quite the fan of that. And he has done the entire, originally the second. Oh yeah.
Go ahead. The movie Evelyn. Yeah, and again, to go back to what we were looking at with the trash compactor stuff. If you're trying to fill out your collection, and then you do this yourself with making your own, but there are people who are also like-minded and trying to give us toys that we didn't get. that
It's
should have
green
been
light,
made,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, and he did, originally Shira Wave 2 was going to be a lot different than what we got. And he actually, based on descriptions that had come out a few years ago, he did the entire Wave 2, the entire Lost Wave. And those
Wow,
are
very
all
cool.
really cool.
That's totally right up your alley. I know you like to
Yeah,
look at those sort of concept art and
yeah. And then his Horde
so
Katra,
good.
his Huntara.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I'll go back to
no,
Katra.
you're good.
Huntara got my attention. One of my favorite classics figs. I hope there's other people like me who love that figure. I love that figure.
No, she's a really good figure.
Very cool.
Yeah. So yeah, he's one of my favorite creators. He's doing this. Yeah, this would have been from the Wave, allegedly from the Wave 2. Frost's family was going to be built out. So
Oh, that would have been so cool.
yeah, and he even, you know, like see-through options. The fur is pretty much the armor, the cloth part of it, the leatherette. I mean, it just, this is sort of his process. Like,
Oh, that's
he's really
fantastic.
transparent on how he gets from filmation to like
Mhm.
toy designs based on sort of one of his rough first, you know, his concept figure where he kind of kit bashed from a
Yep.
bow.
Very, very
Yeah.
cool. Okay. Just because I want to make sure that we have the time, let's talk about your stuff. So
Yeah, let's
speaking
do
of
it.
creating figures to finish out a line that we didn't get and maybe we should have. I know you yourself are a very talented and prolific customizer.
I am.
Full disclosure, this is Allison is one of the many persons, not many, there's actually 3 things that I have, 2 that I've interviewed, including yourself, that I'm hoping to turn into an episode where we really delve into your sort of like history and also your
Yeah.
work. But in the meantime, this is kind of why I also wanted to do the news, is this maybe gives me an opportunity to just do some chatting live and share some of that in a quicker format. So we're looking at your work here. What's going on here?
Well, obviously it's a green goddess and an evil Lyn from Origins, but I went in and did Mark Taylor's original concept of the sorceress, because
Mhm.
although Tila had the armor when the toys came out, originally it was 2 separate characters. Tila was a warrior woman, and then the sorceress wore the snake armor, and she was more of a morally ambiguous. She was sort of intended to play both sides of things. So I took a green goddess figure from Origins and one of the 2 evil Lyns in Origins, and I made this figure. So it's paint. The head has some under the snake armor. There's some black warbler on it, the thermoplasty, a little bit of epoxy sculpt, and of course there are some of the little sticky rhinestones from crafting, because you got to throw some gems on there. But this
Love
one was
it.
mostly just to repaint. Obviously, but I did grind down a little bit of the armor on the waist to get it closer to Mark Taylor's original sketch, because it just, the original waist part, Tila, sort of the armor on the chest and with the leaf, that was supposed to be armor that fit on over the buck. The original idea for the female buck and vintage MOTU is a lot more generic, so they could have had more variety, and then they just mushed the 2 characters together because Mattel was like, boys aren't going to buy 2 female figures in a line.
Yeah. And here we are saying, give us all of these. I want these.
Well, and you know, like ironically,
yeah.
part of the reason we got Shira was because MOTU had huge appeal for girls. A lot of girls were buying Tila and Evil Lyn, so they were like, we should build out.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then
well,
this,
yes.
yeah. So this, I call him the Neon Falcon. We do talk about this in the what we filmed. I sort of have,
Yes.
obviously we all have our headcanon and our fanfic worlds. And in mine, Eternia has a moon called Titanios. And this is one of the heroes of Titanios. On the moon, there's a side that never sees the sun. And this is the hero of that side, the Neon Falcon. He is a buzz off, some sorceress wings, and Sunman. And I had some neon green paint and some purple and Bebop glasses. There's Bebop from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
Yep.
that I'm slowly building into a pig man. Is it pig man or pig head? Pig head.
Pig head.
Yeah, a pig head minion. And I had the extra glasses, and they were exact same color. I just painted him, and I'm like, oh, you get the glasses. And then I'm like, wow, this is a lot of neon. And then I'm like, the Neon Falcon.
Folks are liking it.
Yep.
And recognizing where you're pulling from. And I wanted to, Alpha Magnus also talented cosplayer and customizing.
Oh, Alpha Magnus is the best.
And I do want to go back because when you were telling me, when you were kind of retelling the sorceress's origins, that's one of the things that I've always loved about the original concepts. Was those things were a little bit more ambiguous.
Yeah, it really was. Grayskull wasn't a fortress. There was no sorceress in it. Like Tila was the guardian, but like it was
very cool.
Yeah. So
and JMac, likes your headcanon, and absolutely super adventurous in terms of like the storytelling, but also the colors and the just really cool stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's what, as a kid, that's what I was drawn to with MOTU and Princess of Power was the color.
Yep. Speaking of bright color.
Yeah, that's one of my villains. It's an evil avian. I'm one of the people who bought all of those naked Stratoses and did things with them, so you're all welcome. But yeah, this is just a Stratos repaint.
The line was going to end until Allison went and picked up all those naked Stratos, and Target was like, "Oh my God, these things are selling." Yep, all you.
So
thank you.
Mustard yellow with some green and some white and some red eyes.
And it captures the sort of spirit of the original line in the sense that like so much of it was reuse, right? And so much of it was just like, let's play with the sort of fun and color. But what this also reminds me is sometimes in those mini comics and a lot of comics, you get a little bit weird, like misprints. And so, I feel like the colors are like, oh yeah, I probably feel like that seems to fit right in. Cool. You gave some of the guards some melanin.
Yeah. Actually, whenever I first started customizing Origins, my first 3 purchases were an extra He-Man to make 1 jar, and then a Clam Champ and a Man-at-Arms, because I was like, well, I don't go for that headcanon where like Man-at-Arms died and became a Snake Man or whatever. My headcanon was he retires eventually, and this is the new Man-at-Arms
replacement. Gotcha.
Yeah, and I always. Well, if you look at some of the early art for Masters of the Universe, Man-at-Arms looks as though they may have intended at some point for him to be less Caucasian. So I figured, why not do that? And took a while. I lost a nail getting that helmet off of Man-at-Arms and had to shave down quite a bit of Clamp Champ's head, but it was worth it because it's a really simple custom, but one of my favorites. And I think it's partly just because other than the death of the nail, it was simple. It's, like pretty much anyone can, a lot of the customs I do, I try to approach it from, could anyone do it? Because I feel like people should be able to easily customize their toys.
Yeah, no, I love that spirit. And so Star has a question just in terms of like, creating characters. How do you determine what colors to use? Do you ever want to use some color combos, but don't, thinking they're sort of typical cliche example, black and red? And you definitely seem to, be open to color. So what's your thinking around that?
I have 2 different methods. One, there are characters that I specifically want to make. And that usually requires getting 2 or 3 different figures and then kit bashing them together. And then I have spare parts. And then I just kind of put the spare parts together, and there's a figure. And then I will start painting. But I will, do you know how Origins has the little piece of paper that shows the figure and shows you what parts remove?
Yep.
I will put that on my light box, turn that on, and then trace. Basically trace the figure, and then I'll just start coloring it.
Okay.
Until I find a color combination I like.
Yeah.
As far as like cliche colors, if I like how it looks, I just go with it. I do try to avoid, like if it's any sort of person of color, I try to avoid anything where I'm going to be tempted to name them like Black Condor or something, like
sure.
that sort of thing is really cliche at this point, and I can do better. So I try to avoid color combinations that follow into like that type of cliche, but I would, in a heartbeat, if I found the right combination for red and green, I would 100% do it, whether it's Christmas colors or not, if it visually pleases me. There are some characters I've probably done that might fall into sort of stereotypical, like I at one point did have quote Black Zodak. I just don't share those on social media because regardless of what my intention is, you never know how someone's going to take that.
Sure.
You don't have to. An important lesson for everyone customizing: make what you want. Just you don't have to share. Not everything has to go on the internet. So if I have something that's cliche or maybe could be taken the wrong way, I just don't put it on the internet.
Well, on that note, it looks like we've got a bunch of customizers here, and I love this sort of sharing.
If you guys aren't following Alpha Magnus or subscribe to him, please do, because he does videos almost every day. And it's all about sort of the figures he's buying. He reviews them, but it's also about what he's going to custom from them. So if you're a customizer, definitely check out Alpha Magnus, because most of his videos are just looking at the figures, but he tells us what he's going to do with them. And that alone for me is like 100% helpful. So
yeah, and speaking your language of looking at figures and those are cool, but what else can I do with them? How can I use them? No, totally.
And he's going to be doing his own toy line, and I'm really excited to see what that looks like, because great imagination.
Yep. And so Black Phoenix, even though slacking sounds like, but the customizer, I know Stars customizing things, maybe they're Cosmic Legions, not sure, but color obviously seems like he's asking those questions. And
Star, just get a piece of paper and draw. It doesn't have to look good, because again, not everything needs to go on the internet for people to see if it doesn't look good. And just play with colors until you find stuff you like.
Yep, and you give people ideas too. It says Thanos is saying that he never had thought about actually taking off the Man-at-Arms helmet until you suggested it, which is what customizing is all about.
And I did tell the thumb story, but I've at this point de-helmeted like 3 or 4 Man-at-Arms, and that one almost killed me. The other ones have popped off pretty easy, just soaked in hot water for 5 to 10 minutes. So
perfect.
Don't let my thumb story dissuade anyone.
Your what?
My thumb story.
Oh, yeah. All right. On that note, thank you so much for joining us. We've definitely, look, we're running 6 minutes over. We're good. But thank you so much for hanging out with me. Yeah, it's always fun to hang out. Oops. Thank you so much to everybody who joined us today as well, and kind of hear what Allison shared. We got I saw as well. Again, just a reminder, as it says on the screen right now, you can use that QR code. It'll take you to that URL, bit.ly/Brick Something News, capital B, capital S, capital News, BS News. And I'll have that updated actually pretty shortly after this, while I watch myself some Geek Dad Live, maybe flip around to Hella Dope and check out what's going on Jesse's channel, just shelve it. So with that said, thank you again, Allison. Her info for her YouTube channel and her Instagram are in the description currently, and again will be linked prominently in Brick Something news link. And also, you know, I didn't say this earlier, but if you look at that link, it just continues from the week before and the week before. So if there's anything ever you wanted to see, it's all going to be there, because it's, truth be told, it's for me too. I want to document this stuff and flip through some cool stuff. So any parting words for the folks, Allison?
Customize, be creative, play with your toys.
Love it. And where can they find you next?
Next, I will soonish be on Geek the F Out with Kayla and Johnny for some Ahsoka. And then every day my YouTube has shorts going up. So
yeah, every single day you can see Allison coloring with some fierceness. So all right, folks. Well, thank you very much for joining us again for another episode of the Brick Something News. I know you've got plenty of choices, which is why I'm going to end this now. And you can go watch all sorts of other things. But before you do, if you're not subscribed, please consider doing that. Hit that like button. Maybe get the notifications. I update folks with the community tab as often as I can. And I, too, have been trying to be regular with the shorts. So check them out. But yeah, I think that's it for us. So we'll go ahead and close out. Thank you all so much. Thank you so much to the chat and everyone who joined us tonight. Definitely open up all your toys, as folks say. And yeah, dope. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you all next time on the Brick Something News. No.